What is happening, good people? We are here with my man Jared Man Boobs Dillian to record Dirtcast number 40. What's up, brother?
What's up, pussy?
How are you today? Just give it to me straight. Call me a pussy right out of the gate. Fine.
I
Get
was
at it.
actually I was reading the other day that pussy is not a vagina. It's short for pusillanimous. Which I think is a bullshit story, right? I think that's bullshit, but I'm gonna go with it. Pussy is short for pusillanimous. So
I bet Urban Dictionary would argue with that, but I'll give it to you. A quick intro for Dirt Macro Dirt number 40. You have to talk about my man Sean Kemp, who is the only athlete that I can name was number 40, but was literally one of the most exciting basketball players of all time. You know anything about Sean Kemp?
I really don't know.
No, just a Seattle Supersonic, came into the NBA straight out of college, one of the most exciting guys to watch, jumped out of the gym, dunked like a freak, never won a dunk contest. But man, I'm telling you, back in the late 80s, early 90s, he was the guy making Michael Jordan and Dominique Wilkins better.
I mean, that back then, that's when Spud Webb was winning the dunk contest.
Yeah, exactly. And you know who else? D Brown won in '91. Just watching a 6-foot guy dunk like an animal. Guy who's a
Yeah.
point guard for the Celtics. That wins trophies in that. Okay, at our fan base request, who we appreciate very much, we're going to go right into the markets here and the tug of
I
war
gotta I
going
gotta
on.
I gotta say one thing.
Let's go.
I cannot wait to get to macro dirt number 46.
Why?
You know who number 46 is?
I can't even think of a
Andy
46.
Pettit.
Oh, Pettit. Yeah, well, you know what?
Yes.
I swear to God, that came to mind.
Yes.
Swear to God. Okay, we'll cover him
Because
intensely.
I have an Andy Pettit jersey. I got the number 46. I'm wearing it to macro dirt number 46.
Oh, that's badass.
Yeah.
Very cool. I have an official Yankee jersey as well. Obviously, it's the visiting captain's jersey number 2, my prized possession. But let's get to the markets, man. Tariff tantrums, panic puke shots, Liberation Day. What does it all mean, JD? Take it away. What are we looking at on the screens today? I know what I have in mind.
You know, I mean, it's I walk in this morning, it's the same thing. Stocks down, bonds up, dollar down. Same thing every day.
Yep.
This is the trade that I've been pushing for months now. One thing I'll say is that positioning in the dollar is no longer long. Like, remember a couple months ago, we were saying everybody was long the dollar. You could see it in the COT data. It's neutral now. In fact, it's even a little bit. It's even a little bit short. So that overbought condition in the dollar is pretty much worked off at this point. So, that's if you're trading FX, that's something to pay attention to. So
Absolutely. And if you're trading commodities as well, because one of the standout moves in Q1 to me was dollar off 4%, Bloomberg Commodity Index up 8%, led by double-digit percentage gains in natural gas, in gold, in silver, and copper. So it's pretty interesting to see this commodity trade come to life, while they're taking the piss out of Mag 7, which is clearly on the European agenda, and why we walk in every day during the tariff announcement confusion with Europeans doing the same exact thing, blowing their brains out in the equity market, buying treasuries, for the idea that their economy is going to slow down and maybe a flight to safety kind of a trade. And that's what we're left with. But we got to take a quick victory lap while we're talking about commodities. We spoke about copper rallying up above 10K LME. I said probably nothing. You were a little bit fadey. Here we are at 97.04. Looks like it's going nowhere fast.
yeah, I said it was overbought, and it was overbought, and I think it's got to correct another 3 to 5% before you can, go back on the long side. So
Okay. I like that. That pulls it back into the moving averages and
Yep.
right into the sort of one of the recent old highs. So I can definitely get with that. Somewhere around 95 and a quarter. Copper looks good again on the LME. What's pretty cool today, JD, is that it's Liberation Day, and I love seeing sell side shops poop in their pants in panic. I just love seeing it. I love watching Yardeni research call tariffs a wrecking ball, raising stagflation risk to 45%. They're warning of higher inflation, a recession, and supply chain disruptions. Sounds like they're stuck in 2020.
Man, anybody who says that tariffs are going to cause inflation is a ding dong.
I couldn't
Like,
agree more. I mean,
yeah,
I feel like it's playing out in deflationary form
it
right in front
totally
of our
is.
face.
I know. I know. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, me neither. I
Um,
mean, dude, look at some of these comments. Wedbush calls the auto tariffs a hurricane-like headwind, predicting $10,000 price hikes, inflation, and profit squeezes. Goldman increased the recession odds to 35%, citing the GDP drag from weaker investments, higher costs, and global retaliation. So there's plenty of panicking going on. I'm just wondering if it's not all priced in.
um, I don't, I mean, really, like, I don't know. Like, Trump is supposed to have the Rose Garden thing later today, announcing the tariffs. This is kind of uncharted territory for me. I'm gonna stick with my basic view: stocks down, bonds up, dollar down. That's what's been working for the last month or two. By the way, we have payrolls on Friday.
Yep.
We are expecting 140,000 jobs on payrolls. Claims is on Thursday. We're expecting 226 jobless claims, 226,000.
Yep.
ADP came out today at 155. It was expected at 120, so that was a little bit hotter. So it would be kind of look. I'm positioned for a weak payroll number, but it would be kind of ironically funny if jobs came in at like 200,000 on Friday.
Mm, yep.
Everybody's positioned for a recession, and the market's just like, aha, and, blows everybody's heads off.
Yeah, I feel like we're setting up for a couple of those, man, because both in the bond market where we're getting continually, we're getting some weaker data, rates are coming off. I'm interested in seeing the US 10-year attack that neckline at 4%. That's a chart that we left out last week by accident, but I'm going to make sure it goes up right here so we can discuss it. It looked to me like we've got that head and shoulders in the 10-year where if we break 4%, we head much lower. We got some data this morning, like you said. Also, we didn't include durable goods orders a little better, ex transportation in line, and yields bottomed at 410, and then Treasury started selling off again, and we've got yields back at 415. So I don't know. I feel like the bond market is at a comfortable equilibrium. I just think that we're going to continue to see the data weaken, and that's going to cause a bond rally. Once TLT gets above its 200-day moving average, that's kind of where I want to dig in. That coincides with the neckline break at 4% in the 10-year. That's my trigger for entry, and I'll manage the risk from there.
Yeah.
You know, um, I want to talk about what do you think about Tesla earnings, man? They missed again this morning. 37,000 cars delivered versus 377 estimates. I mean, how does this stock keep pulling it off and surviving with all these misses?
I saw, I didn't see the hard numbers, but I saw that deliveries were down 13%.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's quarter over quarter over year or year over year. Look, I mean, Tesla, I mean, we know this, right? We have a friend who is very bearish on Tesla all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I have made a lot of money. Just like when people get max bearish on Tesla, it's going to zero. And not even just one friend. I have multiple friends who are just like Tesla perma bears.
Yeah.
And when the stock is down like 50, 60%, and everybody think it's going to get obliterated, like next thing you know, it's up like 40% in 2 days, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it trades like that. It's completely hairy, and it trades like a lot of the bad news is priced in. You know what I mean? And I know that it's trading at an absurd valuation still compared to the other Mag 7 stocks. And that should probably be watched when you
Have
look
you
at the.
have you seen anything with Tesla Q on Twitter these days? Is
No, I
that
haven't
still a
seen
thing?
that. No, I don't think so, man.
Remember the Tesla Q thing from like 5 or 6 years ago?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I remember that. That was back up there with Tesla charts when Tesla charts was roaming
Yep.
around Twitter. That character. Yeah, man, it's going to be a hairy one. It's interesting to me that Mag 7 obviously bearing the brunt of all this, but we've got a couple of them that are right into support that I want to keep a close eye on for the turn because man, when this market turns, it's going to be hairy. It looked today coming into Liberation Day. You have to think of the setup where if you're a European money manager with sales on your desk to get done because of the tariff wars, I got to think that you want to be done by Liberation Day, right? Like you don't want to walk into Liberation Day as a professional with wads of longs that you were supposed to sell on the pad, right? Just as a professional setup here.
That's a good
So,
point.
right. So I look at the market this morning, and what did we do pre-opening? We tumbled right back towards the lows. Oh my God, here come the European sellers again. And what it looked like after the open was somebody big short was pressing it so they could buy it, because you came in this morning and there was nothing for sale on the opening. Now, that may change as time goes by. Europeans will take stuff off their pad, feed it into the market. But the timing of the setup today, with a second push lower towards the old low in the S&P, and I'm talking about the March 11th low, with max negativity of the Rose Garden at 4 o'clock today, I'm going to tell you the European deck is cleared. And I still think that the next 100 to 200 points in the S&P can be higher from here. So that's a bet to me where the risk reward lines up. You've got a recent low to hang your hat on. You've got black hole sentiment still, extreme fear and greed. Those are the times that it's lined up to buy stocks in the past, and I'm going to stick with my guns this time.
But by the way, would you ever buy a Tesla? You don't own a Tesla, do you?
No, man. I just talked about it with a friend of mine. I'm actually leaning more the other way in terms of cars. Like I've driven in a couple of electric cars. I've driven in a Tesla. I have driven an electric car, not a Tesla. But what I'm getting the urge for is a combustion engine. For whatever reason, I'm seeing the remakes and the restos of all of the muscle cars on Twitter, and they are absolute sex toys, in my opinion. They just are, like a refurbished Mustang. You know what I mean? Like with some
know what I like is the Dodge Challenger. I like those.
Cool looking, man. Yeah, that's a muscle car for the sake
Yep.
of muscle cars, and it's a really masculine looking thing, man. And I'm kind of leaning more towards that than getting the Tesla.
So the thing, I live in Pawleys Island, South
Mhm.
Carolina. The two places I would drive are like Charlotte and Atlanta. Okay,
Mhm.
Charlotte is about 200 miles.
Mhm.
Atlanta is about 300 miles.
Yeah.
I can't get to Atlanta on one charge. And there's like, where am I going to stop in between here and Atlanta where I can charge up? Charlotte, I can barely get there on one charge, but I gotta plug it in once I get to Charlotte, which means I got to look around for a charging station. It just seems like a huge pain in the ass.
Yeah, and maybe we're in the dark because we don't own electric cars, and maybe those charging stations are a little bit more ubiquitous than we think, or something like that. There are a couple in the basement of TG Macro HQ here in the parking garage. There's like a line of chargers and stuff. So that stuff is getting built and respected. But I agree with you from a convenience standpoint. If I can't drive 300 miles and have a convenient place to recharge, then what the fuck am I doing? So it doesn't make much sense to me at all. I'm excited about Pawleys Island, though. We're coming up toward the Macro Dirt Con.
Yeah, about a month. Yeah.
Yep. I'm honored to be speaking at it this year. You've got a great roster, and I want to be down there, driving down and doing a big road trip around your conference. So I'm really
We got
really
Grant Williams. We got Peter Bookvar. We have a stand-up comedian. We have Paul Ollinger.
Oh man, yeah, it's gonna be fun. We're gonna turn the Litchfield Beach Resort upside down this year. I'm excited. What else did we want to talk about? Let's talk a little bit about gold because it's mandatory, right? 31 and a quarter last. Now, I will say that one thing that we've got to take into account, I get a great newsletter from some financial content creators called Grit newsletter. They do a great job at covering the stock market, equity earnings, and things like that. In their newsletter today, JD, gold is no longer in the what's that sound category, right? They're talking about today the overview in Grit, the investment case for gold, the history of it. How has gold performed as a non-correlated diversifier? The miners breaking down gold mining companies, futures contracts explaining gold futures, gold ETFs, the largest ETFs and how they work. And they even start off their overview with the famous JP Morgan quote from 1912. Gold is money, everything else is credit. That's all I'm going to say. It's on the front page of the newsletters today, so
Yeah,
I'm
it's
cautious.
above the fold. It's above
Yeah,
the fold. Yeah.
that's all. And when it gets, it's running away from moving averages, and all the gold bulls are kind of, I won't say cheering and celebrating, but quietly affirming to each other that we're in the right trade, et cetera, et cetera. Usually that's a time still to make a sale that you can buy it back cheaper. But it's so tough to trade. Gold is one of those things that it's either long or very long if you want to make the most money, because
Yeah.
dancing around it is too hard.
I actually wrote a piece for Reason about gold.
Yeah, that was great.
Did you see
About
it?
Wait,
Huh?
the one that I read was about we're kind of slipping into a non-cash society
Yeah, no,
quietly.
this was about it was about gold crossing 3,000. Basically, I wanted to wake up all the libertarians like, hey, gold is above 3,000. And I basically said that the one thing gold people think that gold's correlated to inflation or it's correlated to interest rates or whatever. You know what it's actually most correlated to?
No.
Budget deficits. That's what it has the strongest correlation with. So what I said in the piece was it's we have Doge that is cutting over 100 billion at this point. It's kind of weird that gold is continuing to go up as we're cutting the deficit. So I don't know if people think that Doge will be unsuccessful, right? Or maybe 2 years from now, 4 years from now, we get a Democrat or somebody else and the government goes back to spending or whatever. But it seems to me that gold thinks that the budget problem is intractable. That's what it seems like to me.
Yeah,
So
man. Yeah, and it could be one of those things where you look way back on the chart and you're like, man, why did we not make a sale into Doge cutting deficits and doing all this deflationary stuff right in front of our face, right into an melt up. And could be one of those times where the trade gets mesmerized by price and stops thinking about like the big picture of what's going on. So, maybe this is another rush of CTA new longs into the gold market. It wouldn't shock me if some money comes in. Open interest has been around 550,000 contracts, which means that there's room for a lot more speculative length in the gold market.
dude, I look at the commitment of traders in gold
Yeah.
and it's totally useless. It's useless because like specs are max long gold all the time and it's worked for the last 3 years
Yeah.
and it just doesn't matter.
Yeah. I agree. And I don't think it's a clear enough picture the futures trading in gold anymore to be able to tell what's spec long and what's not spec long. There's probably enough spec length off board that's kept upstairs at investment banks, et cetera, and
Plus
farmed.
China.
Yeah, plus China and farmed out in all kinds of ways. So it gets really, it's just not the most transparent market anymore. And then you've got this story where all this bullion is coming back to the U.S. from London, and open interest is getting shaken up, and deliveries are being taken on the COMEX. So it's a really confusing picture. The only thing that's working right now is price action and technicals.
Yep.
That's what won't stop. So we'll see how long that lasts. And a lot of the time that goes on for longer than anybody can imagine. What else do we need to talk about, JD?
That's it with market stuff, man.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Where do you want to go next? White Lotus, torpedo bats?
Yeah, let's talk about the torpedo bats. All right, so here's my thing. Let me start off on this.
Go.
People have been bitching for years that hitters are totally overmatched against pitchers. The league batting average has gone from like 270 to 230 over like 20 or 30 years. Like there are entire teams batting like 215, 220, right? And we're talking about how the pitchers have just pole vaulted ahead of the hitters. And you're going to start pissing and moaning when somebody makes an innovation with the bat and gives some offense back. And like you're complaining about that, dude, Dave Portnoy is a dildo.
He is a
He's the
dildo.
biggest dildo in the face of the earth. Like it doesn't make any sense.
Agreed. He's a blowhard that gets attention via blowing harder than anybody else and having a bigger audience. No, literally, he just picked the total right. Oh, the Yankees think this is about them. Blah, blah, blah. What a bunch of bullshit. There are people, first of all, on like 8, 10 different teams using torpedo bats, right? What's amazing to me is that this thing is within the rules, right? It's solid wood. It's made of one piece. It's no more than 2.6 inches in diameter around the widest part, and it doesn't exceed 42 inches. It's a baseball bat. let them have it, right? If hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do in sports, which I firmly believe it is, you have
Yep.
literally like a split second of a split second to decide whether you're going to swing. Put some offense on the freaking field, man. Let them go and hit 17 home runs in their first 4 games, and let's run up the score this year. It's going to be a lot of fun. You know what's cool to me too, JD? Did you hear about the mastermind behind the torpedo bat?
Some guy at MIT, right?
Yeah, apparently it's this guy Aaron Leanhard, who is in the Yankee system, but he's a PhD from MIT. He worked on a NASA research team. He was a physics professor at Michigan for 7 years. He left academia to pursue baseball, started at Dawson Community College in Montana, and the Yankees found him somehow.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So, hairy story. Now, this guy bridges the analytical department and players trying to translate data into actionable insights. So this guy comes up with the idea, we're just going to move the bulk of the bat down to where everybody's hitting the baseball and we'll get a better effect. So I think it's good for the sport. I'm all for it. Do you know what I think is bad for the sport?
What?
Jerk-offs like Chaz Chisholm on the Yankees. Right?
What's wrong with Jazz Chisholm?
I'm not a big fan of his at all. First of all, he got suspended because this is what he tweeted after having a monster day using his torpedo bat, right? Okay, explanation. The barrel is bigger and within MLB regulation. For the idiots that say it's moved to the label, you're an idiot. Nobody is trying to get jammed. You just move the wood from the parts you don't use to the parts you do. You're welcome. No more stress for y'all. If you're using a torpedo bat, shut the fuck up. That's my point. Okay, you don't come after the idiots. You shut the fuck up.
Here's the thing with Jazz. So I've been watching Jazz a long time because the Marlins are my second favorite team.
Okay.
So I go to Miami like twice a year, maybe 3 times a year. I always catch a game in Miami. Jazz, I loved watching Jazz play in Miami, and I was overjoyed. I mean, he's a 20-20 guy, maybe a 30-30 guy. He's a good fielder. And I think the Yankees need a flashy guy like that to kind of because they're a bunch of stiffs. The Yankees are a bunch of stiffs. They need a guy like that on the team, And Verdugo was kind of like that, except Verdugo sucked. So
and I'll make the argument that Jazz sucks too at some points. He sucks when it counts, in my opinion. And the fluorescent shoelaces and armbands and necklaces don't do shit for me personally. I'm a Jeter guy, right? I like the way Jeter carried himself, never said a word, and performed all the time under pressure.
Yep, and Jeter is a stiff. He is.
And he's a stiff. He's a total stiff. Dude, I can't stand following him on Instagram. Do you know all he does is emasculate himself with his little daughters? Like, that's his Instagram shtick, is his daughter paints a goofy face on him and he takes a picture on Instagram and puts it up there. And I'm just like, come on, man.
So the thing with Jeter is that, he was in the front office for the Marlins.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He basically got fired.
Yeah.
Because Jeter comes in and he's like, we're going to spend 150 million on this guy. We're going to spend 200 million on this guy. And the owner is like, dude, what is your problem? We don't have the money to spend on, we can't do that. We're a small market team. We can't compete, Right. And he thought he was on the Yankees.
He was like, you shouldn't have hired me. Right? What did you think I was going to do if not buy up all the best talent in the league and bring it to Florida,
And the Marlins do have the lowest payroll out of all the teams, the lowest payroll.
Yeah, we'll give them that. And it's a fun place to watch a game too.
Sure. Always a good seat. Always a good seat.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I'm not a big fan of the new Yankee Stadium. I kind of get repulsed by it when you have memories from being in the old stadium.
Oh yeah.
And you have to walk into the new one, into the cinder block mecca that they created. You're just like, oh God. But that's how the ball bounces in baseball. What else have we got, JD?
I love watching American Idol. I've been watching American Idol for 20 years.
Never seen an episode. Tell me what it's about.
Well, it's a singing competition, right?
Yep.
And God, it's just incredible. There are so many incredibly talented people. My favorite contestant this season is the son of Brian Luttrell, who is on the Backstreet Boys. So the kid whose dad is in the Backstreet Boys is a contestant on American Idol. He's gonna win.
Child prodigy.
The kid is incredible, like absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
So
Offspring from serious athletes should not be undercounted. You know, it's like offspring wind up becoming their dads.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, look in the NHL, you've got the Kachuk brothers. You know what I mean? There's two brothers that are literally carbon copies of their dad in the NHL, both playing at an exceedingly high level. You know, and when you think about the odds of how improbable that is and how often it happens, it's really astounding. You know, like even LeBron James's son made it to the NBA. You know, that's there's some kind of a testament to something there. I mean, maybe just the genetics of elite athleticism
yep.
or something, but it's not
Music,
to be
yeah,
discounted. Yeah, it
yeah.
gets handed down generation to generation for sure. Yeah, I don't have an American Idol game. I'm more of a Battle of the Bands guy.
So when I was at Lehman, people used to bet on American Idol, and we used to bet on everything, you know. But I was like the bookie for American Idol on the trading floor. I was making markets.
Oh, that's
I was
fun.
I'm like I'm 5-1 at 7-1, and I was like in the middle, like making markets. I made a couple grand just making markets on American Idol. It was awesome.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, I like that. That's like making markets on the NCAA tournament teams, which was really, really popular for a spell on the street in the early 2000s. Until there was a story that I remember that some young kid lost like multiple six figures being like short Duke or something like that. Yeah, and his dad had to come to the rescue, literally. Yeah, that's a real story. But I guess it gets a little hairy in the gambling rings now and then. What else? We need one more topic to cover.
You wanted to talk about something.
Oh, I was going to mention the White Lotus
Yeah,
briefly.
what's White Lotus? I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, that's a new show that's like all the rage in the sort of gossipy circles. Like it's the new hot kind of sexy show, and I don't think it's that by any means new. It's new to me. I just got kind of roped into watching it a little. It's about this resort in Thailand where you've got all these different characters going to different groups of people there for different agendas. There's all kinds of sexual innuendo like you read about. And to me, it's a modern day fantasy island without tattoo. You know, that's kind of all White Lotus is backstories on an island and how they intermesh. And obviously there's all kinds of hookup stories.
Well,
And
is it a
sex.
reality show or?
No. It's drama.
Oh, okay.
It's drama, pure fiction. You know, so it's just kind of like one of the hotter things. You know what I mean? If like my daughters and my wife and friends are all talking about it, like everybody's watching it. It's got some weird shit going on too. So it doesn't have my full buy-in, but I have half an eye on it. Let's put it that way.
Did you ever see Euphoria?
No.
I've seen like 1 or 2 episodes. It's disturbing.
Is it?
Yeah, it's.
Where's that one? I don't know that
Dude,
one
I
at
don't
all.
even want to talk about it on the podcast. It's.
Let's not talk
yeah,
about it.
yeah.
You know what I can't stand? It's so the viewer, like your choices as a viewer are becoming so overwhelming. You know what I mean? Like you get Apple TV and you get all of your apps and there's like 30 different movies and 30 different series on each app. And to me, it's just like overwhelming. Like I can't follow it. There's just too much content coming at you. So you got to look carefully for recommendations and things like that. But I want everybody to like and subscribe on the Macro Dirt podcast. We don't have enough of that going on.
I mean, Jesus Christ! Like, get with the program, people. Like, forward it around. Like, send it to your friends. Like,
yeah, for the amount of people that come to me and say you two are the best people that I listen to talk about markets, I feel like our popularity should be a little bit bigger than it is, and maybe that takes a little time. And we're going to be here for it. We just put together 40 weeks in a row. So 10 months of Macro Dirt podcast, which I'm exceedingly proud of. And I think it shows our intention to be committed to this and be here every week trying to add value to what people are thinking about the markets. So share it around, like it, subscribe it, leave comments, leave suggestions. We will get to everybody. And I'm really excited because we've got 2 barn burner guests coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you want to mention them?
I'll mention one. We're having Raul come on the show.
We're having Raul in a couple of weeks, and we're going to have my man BD, Brent Donnelly from Spectrum Markets come on the week after that. Yeah, and we're going to have some really, really strong, drawn-out conversations on the Macro Dirt podcast. So you can share this one around in advance, and then when we get to those barn burners, you'll be like, I told you these guys were good. So thank you, everyone, for listening. We appreciate our audience very much and are going to try to make you guys happy and continue to grow it. And we're going to be coming at you the week before DirtCon soon. And all of this is exciting stuff for JD and I. And with that, we will say hasta lo vagina.
Hasta lo vagina.